News of the day.
Mr. Zimmerman, have you made a decision as to whether or not you want to testify in this case?
With values that never die.
There are certainly a lot of controversies or scandals brewing right now when it comes to the Obama administration.
This is American Heartland with Dr. Grace.
Dealing with the federal government is not always high-tech, and it's not always user-friendly.
The stories that matter.
This is a massive escalation in the tension here in Egypt.
The issues that count.
I don't know why the media tries to make this into a sensation. We have never hidden the fact that we supply Syria with weapons.
This is American Heartland with Dr. Grace.
He's got the red, white, blue flying high on a farm. Semper Fi tattooed on his left arm. Spend a little more in the store for a tag in the back that says USA.
Welcome. This is Dr. Grace, the editor of Politics and Culture at worldtribune.com. If you want to write to me, please do so as I read your letters on the air at every broadcast. That's at valuesthatneverdie at hotmail.com. Valuesthatneverdie at hotmail.com. Also, last week I had the honor, the pleasure of hosting a live show on WRKO in Boston, and we're going to be posting the entire 2 hours of that on our YouTube channel, and that's youtube.com/GraceVuoto. And there, too, you can find all of the broadcasts of American Heartland as we post every single one up after it airs Saturdays at 3. So thank you for joining me once again. I am a little bit tired. Guess why? Because I had the brilliant idea that I was going to do a photo shoot with myself and the 2 children and my husband who was on vacation. So in theory, that sounds great. And I imagined how it was going to be so much fun and we were going to look so great. And if you've dressed 2 little kids, you know how exhausting it is. So I managed to get that part done. And then we had dressing the 3rd kid, you know, the biggest one. We got my husband dressed. And I got to admit, kind of overdressed. But hey, I'm a lady and I don't mind being that. So we had an appointment at JCPenney Portrait Studio, and we were a tad late. And you're not going to believe it. When we stepped in, they said, "I'm sorry, we're not going to do this photo shoot with you guys." And I was just despondent, to be honest. Fortunately, we saved the day because there was Santa in the mall. So we did a beautiful photo shoot with Santa, and then we managed to get Santa to go on break. So we got him out of the photo shoot, and we convinced the girls that were working there to just take some pictures of us. So I'm exhausted after that, but the pictures did come out really beautiful. Well, that's holiday pleasantries. But this week, we have so much fallout from Obama's executive amnesty. So much fallout. I have to say, one of the silver linings in all this is that you're seeing more truth coming from liberals. The Democratic senator from New York, Chuck Schumer, recently lambasted the president for having put Obamacare first on the agenda shortly after their election in 2008. And he gave a speech where he actually spoke truthfully, saying so much of what we on the right have been saying since Obama was elected in 2008. And now this week, more truth. Brace yourselves. Washington Post editorial board has written an editorial in which they are basically saying that the president's justifications for his executive amnesty are based on lies. That's what they're saying. They say that the president claims that he's going to give, relief from deportation to 4.5 million illegals, and that this is based on previous precedents, on the precedents that other presidents have used, like the senior Bush. And yet the Washington Post editorial says, no, Obama's executive amnesty is, quote unquote, unprecedented, just like we said right when we heard it. They really give us the statistics, and they show that when the senior Bush gave some relief to illegals, it was only a few 100,000 who were affected by that provision, not 1.5 million as Obama claims. And that the numbers that the White House has brought forward, the amount of people that Obama wants to give relief from deportation to, these are numbers that are, quote unquote, indefensible, according to the Washington Post. And the editorial also picks apart Obama's explanation as to why he felt compelled to do this. Remember, he said, well, the GOP has not passed the bill. There was a bipartisan bill that was passed in the Senate, and then the House didn't even put it up for a vote. And had they done so, we would have had our immigration reform. And because they didn't do that, then I am going to act unilaterally. I, myself, and I, the monarch, the emperor of the United States. Well, the Washington Post is saying, not so fast, Mr. President. The fact that the GOP has failed to act on immigration does not justify your massive unilateral act. There you have it. The Washington Post. Mr. Obama's policies are not justified by the GOP's failure to address immigration reform. And then there's another point that they bring up, which is right on point, which is that previous presidents, if they did use executive action to give some amnesty, they were following the intent of previous laws passed by Congress. And the Washington Post is saying Mr. Obama is not following congressional intent. Oh my God, truth from the Washington Post editorial board. Suddenly they're seeing the light. So this confirms everything we've been saying. His action is unprecedented, it's indefensible, and you know what? It's outright illegal. So we know that. And now the key question is this. What are Republicans going to do about it? They told us before they went on Thanksgiving break, oh, we've got options. We're going to look at all our options. That's what the House Speaker said. And now we're back from break, and I've been waiting to hear what are they going to do. So they've passed a measure in the House where they condemned the provision. They condemn what Obama has done. Okay, but that's not going anywhere. That's merely symbolic because at this moment, Reid still controls the Senate, and the Senate's not going to pick it up. So that's dead in the water, so they've made a symbolic gesture. Where does that leave us? Nowhere. So we're still waiting to see what exactly are the Republicans going to do. And Trey Gowdy, Republican congressman, is floating one of the ideas. Roll it, Brittany.
That's a great question. The House is debating right now how to respond to it. I think it's careful that we not take the bait. What the president wants us to do is to over-respond so our public approval ratings are as low as his. My personal preference in terms of strategies is for the Senate to use advice and consent. You just spoke about ambassadors who can't find the country they're going to on a globe. That'd be a great place to start, where John McCain said, you know what, Mr. President, you want to act like an emperor? We're going to do our job and not confer advice and consent and not approve some of your nominees. That is where I would start if I were calling the shots.
So, we've heard this before. They've mentioned on American Heartland when Senator Ted Cruz also said the same thing, that what the Republicans should do is simply start by blocking the nominees. And, I think this is not such a good idea because all that the perception that the American people have is, once again, there's just this big fight in Washington, D.C., and nothing is really moving forward and nothing is getting done. I don't know if that's effective. I don't think Obama's going to suddenly say, you guys are going to block my nominees. I'm going to revoke this unilateral action. He's not going to do that. So what are they going to achieve by blocking the nominees? You're going to have a standstill. And at the same time, I think it's, besides the point. The point is what Obama has done. It has nothing to do with nominees. I would keep the focus on Obama's illegal action. If you truly believe that he has done something illegal, don't compound the situation by simply creating more gridlock in Washington, D.C., because that's what blocking nominees is. So at this point, the House doesn't seem to have a response that I think is bold enough, courageous enough, strong enough to make any meaningful difference. So what about the Senate? Well, Mitch McConnell, the incoming Senate Majority Leader, he's going to assume that position in January. He gave an interview to Greta Van Susteren on the record with Greta Van Susteren. I thought one part of the interview was really excellent, where he explained that Harry Reid has basically not passed so many bills, and we're talking about hundreds of bills that the Republicans had passed in the House. And finally, the Senate is going to function again. It's open for business. So we're going from a dysfunctional Senate to a Senate that will function. So that's good. I'm happy to hear about that. We're looking forward to seeing how that goes and how many of those bills Obama will actually sign. But the question remains, what are you going to do about Emperor Obama behaving unilaterally on amnesty? And this is what he says.
When you had the situation where the president, right after the election, has executive action that was pretty much poking a stick in the eye of many Republicans, at least they thought, on immigration. I mean, it's a very hot issue.
Yeah, it was not helpful. I mean, in fact, almost everything he said since the election makes it look like he was totally unaffected by the outcome of the election. So it's not helpful. So what you have to do is you have to decide, am I going to decide not to do things that are in the best interest of the country because I'm mad at the president? I don't think that's a rational response. I do think that on the immigration issue, it really makes it very difficult to go forward on that. And we all think he made a big mistake if he was interested in actually getting some kind of results on immigration. Look, the immigration system is broken, but rewarding those who've benefited from how broken it is not a great message to the rest of the Americans population, which feels like we ought to play by the rules.
Stop it with the passion, Mitch. You're so passionate. You're so outraged when you speak. It's not helpful. And they made a big mistake. Oh, my goodness. I'm about to fall asleep just listening to him. I mean, aren't you outraged by what he did? You have the House Speaker saying he's behaving like an emperor and a monarch, and this guy's going, well, it really was not helpful. In another interview Mitch McConnell did, he was saying, like, I don't think the president has gotten the memo from the midterms, and I'm perplexed by his behavior. Why are you perplexed, Mitch McConnell? Nobody's perplexed. We've been watching him do his own thing for a while now. Why are you perplexed? You should be ready, and you should be expressing the outrage that so many of us have. And you should be making the case much more forcefully to the American people about how grave a violation of the Constitution this is. So then the key question is, okay, Mitch, what are you guys going to do about it? What are going to be the consequences to the president regarding the fact that he is violating our Constitution? And here's the passionate Mitch McConnell once again.
And in those bills, if you object to bureaucratic regulations of one kind or another, or presidential actions of one kind or another, you literally write into the spending bill restrictions. But if you do each bill separately, you take away from the president the argument that you're shutting down the government. Because if he vetoes a particular bill, you haven't shut down the government. You may have entered into an argument about a portion of the government and its activities, but you haven't brought the whole government to a halt. In recent years, with Democrats in control in the Senate, we haven't passed individual appropriation bills. So we've ended up balling them all up into one big bill, which gives the president all the power to make the argument that you're shutting down the government.
Stop it, Mitch. You're too outraged at the president, Mitch. Your passion is just overwhelming the American people here. You know, I learned a very important lesson as a faculty member at Howard University. There were two faculty members who were, there were two women, by the way. They were basically middle-aged women, and at every single meeting, they were always sniping at each other. They detested one another. No matter what the issue we brought forward, they found a way to express their intense dislike of one another. Now, because that had been going on for years, I didn't know what originally caused the animus between them. But I was more sympathetic to one of the two. So one day I took her aside and said, I just want to, what's going on between the two of you? Why is it every single issue we raise, you guys look like you're willing to strangle, you want to strangle one another? And she explained, and I was very sympathetic towards her point of view. But I said, to all of us observing you, it doesn't matter that you may have been right at the beginning. Right now, you guys just look like you're always fighting, and looks like an irrational fight. And this is a very important lesson to understand. Unprofessional behavior in the workplace makes both parties look bad. That's what I was trying to convey to her. It doesn't matter who was right or who was wrong. Well, this is what the Congress, the House and the Senate is kind of slipping into, like a fight with the president, where, oh, we're going to block your nominees. Oh, we're going to send you these bills, and we're going to fund this, but not that. And then the president is it's going to look like one giant fight. And what I'm afraid is going to happen is that the public perception is going to be, again, nothing is getting done, and we can't even see clearly who's right and who's wrong in all this. This is not an effective strategy. If the president has violated the Constitution gives us a clear remedy for that. It's not more gridlock. It is impeachment. That is where we have the high moral ground. Our Republican leaders are too afraid to fully stand up to this emperor and this monarch, even when now the editorial board at the Washington Post is calling him a liar. The American people know he's lying, and yet our feckless leaders don't have the courage to do what it takes to get him out of office. This is Dr. Grace.
The stories that matter, the issues that count. This is American Heartland with Dr. Grace. The stories that matter, the issues that count. This is American Heartland with Dr. Grace.
Saying, hey girl, but you know I ain't listening. 'Cause I got a name, and to you it ain't pretty little thing. Howdy, oh baby, it's driving me red.
Well, there's a new girl in a country song. It is Madam Hillary. Now, get ready for a really good laugh. There's a super PAC that has decided that the best way to promote Hillary Clinton is to produce a country music song about her. And you know, when I think Hillary Clinton, I always think country music, right? So they're going to do a country music song with Hillary in it. And it has a lot of those good old themes from the South, you know. They sprinkle those themes in there. And they try to make her seem really patriotic and really folksy, really one of us. You know, the kind of person that was kind of like broke, quote unquote, after they left the White House. So she's just a good old gal from the American heartland. That's what they're trying to tell us that Hillary Clinton is. And they think that by spinning this tall tale, we're suddenly going to see Hillary in a whole new and very sympathetic light. Well, check it out. This is the new country music video about Hillary Clinton.
She's a mother, a daughter, and through it all, she's a loving wife. Oh, there is something about her, this great lady. Caring, hard-working, wants a first lady. She fights for country and my family. Now it's time for us to stand up with Hillary. Hillary, stand up, America, with Hillary.
I can hear your reaction out there. It sounds something like this. You know what? You would think that Hillary Clinton is somehow running for the GOP with that song. You know, she stands for country and family. That's a mantra that we usually associate with the Republican Party, not with the Democrats. The Democrats are usually associated with the city, with being progressive, with support for gays and lesbians, not with country and family. Certainly not family, not the traditional family, that's for sure. And when we talk about country, you know, she fights for country. Oh my goodness. Hillary Clinton, the great American patriot, the one who always takes America's side. Not. We know for a fact that she fully supported Barack Obama's foreign policy, which was anti-American, which means that she supports a view that if American power recedes in the world, that's probably a very good thing. So the last word that I would use to characterize Hillary Clinton is patriotic, is one who fights for country. It's all one huge joke. But I think the biggest laugh of all has to be when they're describing her in this song. A great lady, she's a mother, she's a daughter, and quote unquote, she's a loving wife. Now that's a laugh. If ever we've seen a marriage that is completely dysfunctional, it's that of Bill and Hillary Clinton. She's by no means a loving wife. She's a woman who has allowed her husband to humiliate her repeatedly, and she has enabled him to abuse young women. She has stood by allowing him to do that. There's no love in this. This is a political partnership, a cold, calculating political partnership, and both of them use and discard women, and she has certainly supported that. You know, the phrase, what a great lady, she's a mother and her daughter, as though she stands with women. No, she doesn't. She doesn't stand with women who are abused, victimized by her very own husband. So if you're not going to stand on the side of women in your own life, how are you going to stand for women in general, period? You're not. And we know that about Hillary Clinton. So this is just one huge joke. And we have to ask the question, why are they doing this? Why are they doing something which even the left wing is making fun of? Because it's really not her. I mean, this is not the way that you promote a progressive political leader. This is just not the music that you use. It's not the imagery that you use. It's not the lyrics that you use. It's completely contrary to the ideology that she puts forward. So the question is, why are they doing this? Well, Hillary Clinton has a huge problem, and it's a problem that the entire Democratic Party has. They are losing the support of the white working class. This is one of the big demographic shifts during the Obama years. We talked in a previous program how they have lost the senior vote. So the seniors are gravitating in droves towards the Republicans. But there's another big group that is leaving the Democratic Party, and it is the white working class. You know, Obama came to office promising that the hardworking people who were being squeezed by this economy, that they were going to be rescued by his policies, and they haven't been. And so they understand that this has failed. And so all the polls are showing, even the results of the midterm, is the white working class is looking elsewhere for help. They desperately need economic help. Even as we see some signs of economic recovery, it's still not percolating to the hardworking people in this great land of ours. And so what do the Democrats have to do? More lies. They just have to try to rebrand Hillary Clinton and rebrand the entire Democratic Party so that they can make it seem like, hey, we get you, we understand you, and we share your values. And we know that that's just one huge crock. The good news for the Republican Party is that the white working class that has supported the Democrats is leaving, and it is up to us to continue to sway them that they're making the right move by leaving the Democrats and joining the conservative movement, because it is our policies that are the policies of growth, meritocracy, and true help for the hardworking people of this country. Well, Hillary was also in the news this week on another story, and that is she is telling us her grand foreign policy vision. Check this out.
This is what we call smart power, using every possible tool and partner to advance peace and security, leaving no one on the sidelines, showing respect even for one's enemies, trying to understand and, insofar as psychologically possible, empathize with their perspective and point of view, helping to define the problems, determine the solutions. That is what we believe in the 21st century will change the prospects for peace.
Does this deserve the laugh button again? Let's play that laugh sound again. Because this clip from Hillary Clinton is just as funny as the country music video we just heard. So, it is hilarious to me because she says that what we need is smart power, quote unquote, and we need to show respect for our enemies. You mean like Vladimir Putin? We should show him respect? Is that what you mean by smart power? Hillary Clinton was one of the architects of the so-called reset. And what did that reset entail? It entailed showing, quote unquote, respect for Russia, pulling out our defense missiles. We were going to have bring them into Eastern Europe. And that was like, no, let's just scrap this program. Let's just show them real respect. Let's, quote unquote, empathize with their point of view. And you know what they did with all that respect and empathy? They rolled right into Crimea, and they are currently rolling into Eastern Ukraine. That's what your quote unquote smart power is. I don't call that smart power. I call that stupid power. So we've already seen this in practice, and we know it doesn't work. And then think about it again. Show respect for your enemies. Show your respect for somebody like ISIS. Does ISIS deserve our respect? They are beheading American journalists in the most grotesque manner. Is that worthy of respect? Is that worthy of us trying to be empathic with their point of view? What is their point of view? We want to exterminate you because you don't adhere to our vision of the Muslim faith. We want to kill you because we want to impose Sharia law around the world. That's their point of view. What is there to understand? What is there to empathize with? And naturally, in all of us, the last emotion that we feel when we think of ISIS is compassion. We feel revulsion. We feel outrage. We feel disgust. Their behavior is grotesque, barbaric, evil. There's nothing smart about saying that we need to show respect for enemies like that, empathize with their point of view. That is being thick as a doorknob, dumb as a doorknob, not smart. You know what that clip really shows? It shows that even though recently Hillary Clinton's trying to distance herself from Barack Obama's failed foreign policy, she's tried to let it be known by her acolytes in the media, I disagreed with him on Syria. I think we do. And then she's actually said in an interview, we do need, quote unquote, organizing principles. We can't just, not try to do stupid stuff. So she's tried to say that she's different than Barack Obama. But the proof in that video clip says it all. Her ideology is exactly the same as Barack Obama's. And we've been down this road far too long not to know what the results are. This foreign policy leads in complete contempt for the United States of America. Russia has no respect for us. They have no fear of us. They have utter contempt of us, and they're doing whatever they want. And the same with ISIS. ISIS running roughshod over in Syria, taking hold of large swaths of Iraq, huge loss of American gains. What is the result of showing them, quote unquote, compassion and respect? The result is American retreat in the world. The result is American boys being beheaded. It doesn't work. And so, getting back to the country music video that we began this segment with, the so-called American great lady who loves country and family, who has the values of the American heartland, that image is one huge lie. She is every bit as incompetent as Barack Obama, and in her ideology, she's every bit as dumb as he is, every bit as thick-headed as he is, and the results of that ideology are purely un-American. And so that video that you heard, that song in that video, it is the antithesis of Hillary Clinton. In reality, she is a city-loving, family-destroying progressivist who is as anti-American as they come in her foreign policy. You're listening to Dr. Grace, upholding the values of the American heartland.
This is American Heartland with Dr. Grace. The stories that matter, the issues that count. This is American Heartland with Dr. Grace.
Welcome back. This is Dr. Grace, the editor of Politics and Culture at worldtribune.com. Joining us today is the national security analyst at the Clarion Project, Mr. Ryan Mauro. You can check out their website, clarionproject.org. He is here to discuss the Islamic end times prophecies. What does ISIS really want? What are their ultimate objectives? Well, welcome to the show, Mr. Mauro.
Thanks for having me on.
Well, recently there was another beheading, that of Peter Kasich, an American soldier. He's 26 years old. And in this last video that ISIS distributed, they did reference the Islamic end times. So what are they saying? How is this video different? And what is their ultimate goal?
Well, the ultimate goal of the Islamic State and all other Islamic terrorists like them is to implement Sharia law as a form of governance across the world. That is a theocratic form of governance that is highly oppressive and in their mind reflects the will of God. What's interesting about the latest video that was put out by the Islamic State featuring the beheading is that they are wrapping themselves in Islamic end times prophecies. So the message that they are sending out to the Muslim audience that they want to win sympathy from is this isn't your normal jihad against the infidel. We are actually implementing end times prophecy. And so it doesn't matter how superior our enemy is militarily, because our Messiah, the Mahdi, as well as the Islamic version of Jesus, are going to appear during this final battle, and they will grant us victory. And so that's a powerful recruitment tactic, because it says basically, number one, don't worry about our death toll. We're going to win. And number two, it says to Muslims around the world that they're trying to recruit, well, come be a part of prophetic fulfillment. Be a part of this important development in history.
Right. Now, what is the vision of the end times?
Well, this is what's really interesting, and this goes for all Islamists, for virtually all of them. They believe in this end times vision, which basically says at the end of days there will be this climactic battle between the true Muslims against the infidel, the U.S., the Jews, the West, all of them. And during this final battle, the Mahdi, the Messiah, will appear, as well as the Islamic version of Jesus. They will come, they will defeat the enemy commander, that would be the equivalent of Christianity's Antichrist, and they will then vanquish Christianity. They believe that Jesus will appear, he will publicly smash a cross and debunk Christianity, so the Christians convert to Islam, and then the entire globe is peaceful and wonderful under Sharia law. And that comes from Islamic end times prophecy that are widely held in the Muslim world, and especially by the Islamic extremists. And as for the Islamic State, what they're actually going a step further and saying this is happening right now, and we are making it happen.
Right. Now, you've referenced several times the Islamic version of Jesus. What is that exactly?
They don't believe that Jesus was crucified, nor do they believe that he was the Son of God, died for sin. They believe that he is essentially the number two person in history after Muhammad, and that he was a miracle-working prophet, a very special person, but one whose purpose and nature is very different from that of Christianity. They argue that the interpretation of Jesus has been flawed through mistranslations and through the word being passed over time. And so they argue that Jesus will come with their Messiah and debunk Christianity, convince Christians that their faith is wrong, their interpretation is wrong. They will join Islam, and that he will help develop this political order for Islam and Sharia law around the world.
Mm-hmm. Now, tell us a little bit about the American efforts to rescue hostages, American hostages. What is your sense? Have they been completely incompetent in their pursuit of trying to, like we have another beheading here with this Mr. Peter Kasich. What's your sense regarding how Obama has conducted trying to get these hostages free before these beheadings occur?
The problem isn't with the U.S. The U.S. is doing everything it can to locate and rescue these hostages. I don't see any error in how we're going about that. The problem comes when private businesses and European governments pay to have hostages released. And according to statistics out there, Al-Qaeda's branch in Yemen, which kidnapped the latest American, has been making something like $20 million a year from ransoms. And in the latest video that Al-Qaeda put out with this new American they captured, the journalist, what they said was, our demands are known. What was interesting is that they didn't list all of their demands. They railed against American policy, but they didn't really want to specify what they were asking for. And that's because I think they didn't want to admit the fact that they're trying to get money. They're trying to get the U.S. to give them millions of dollars to have an American released and his life spared. So this is very much a business for them. The other point I wanted to make about the Islamic State and end times prophecy is that the last American that they beheaded, they drove him to a specific location that they captured called Dabiq in Syria. It's a small town. It's not strategically significant, but they put a lot of effort into capturing it. And the reason is because there is an Islamic end times prophecy that maybe not all Muslims believe in, but the Islamic State does, that says that the true jihadists at the end of days will capture members of the Roman army, which they say is America today. So they believe that at the end of days, the true jihadists will capture members of America, hold them at the city of Dabiq, and then that will result in American soldiers arriving, and this final battle will commence. That will be very bloody, but they'll emerge victorious. So that's why the Islamic State killed him in that specific location and made a point of it. They wanted to say prophecy is fulfilling at the city of Dabiq.
Right, and as you explained, they're trying to recruit individuals by letting them know that, hey, you're going to participate in one of the most important moments in world history, participate in this Islamic end times prophecy. This is what we're really doing. Now, tell me, Mr. Mauro, I've said on the air I said that ultimately what's going to happen is that you're going to have a battle of two afterlives. This is what's really at stake. I know we're talking about end times means that they want to impose Sharia across the world, but what motivates them, what's they're willing to die, is because they have a vision of how they'll be rewarded in the afterlife. And I've said on this program many times that who'll be able to stop that? It's only we Christians who also have a view of the afterlife. Ultimately, what you're seeing is the battle of two afterlives, and which one of these is going to be convincing enough around the world, because what they're basically saying is we're willing to do anything. We're going to give up our lives. We're going to give up our women. We're going to give up our children because we have faith, this great faith and this vision of how we'll be rewarded for being jihadists. And who's going to be able to withstand that? It's going to be others who also have a willingness to make any kind of sacrifice, all sacrifices, because they too believe in an afterlife. So talk to us a little bit about this Muslim sense of being rewarded in the afterlife. What's their vision of what rewards they will be given?
Well, I think it's very important to understand the diversity in Islamic interpretation. So the interpretations I'm talking about for the end times isn't held by all or necessarily most Muslims. The Islamic State is not supported by very many Muslims around the world. They get single-digit support, even in radical places like Saudi Arabia that are more favorable to extremism. So I don't think that this is a final battle between Christianity and Islam. I think there's a lot of nuance there, and there are a lot of positive Muslim movements in the Muslim world that we can ally with. But what the extremists, the Islamists, will promote is this idea that the only way to cleanse your sin and guarantee your entry into paradise is by dying in a violent jihad. And that's why when terrorists carry out an attack, the idea of suicide bombing really appeals to them because they know they're going to die. If they go on a shooting and then they don't die, they get shot and then they get arrested, then they haven't gotten the guaranteed entry necessarily into paradise. But if you blow yourself up, all right, well, now you know that you're going into paradise. You know that all the sin you've committed previously has been wiped away, and you're good to go. And that version of paradise, that also differs in terms of interpretation, but the one that's most well known is the idea that you get 72 virgins for a male in heaven, and it's basically everything you could ever want for all eternity.
What if it's a woman? What does a woman get?
There isn't a clear answer on that. I've seen some clerics argue that that the women would also get a male to have sexual relations with. A lot of even extreme ones will say that that's symbolic, and then they analyze the text and they say basically what they're saying is it's going to be very good and everything's going to be perfect.
Now, one thing I don't understand is this: is if in life the value of chastity is propagated, you should be chaste or good to your wives, etc. Isn't that kind of contradicted by the promise of having like unlimited sex with these 72 virgins?
Yes, I mean, to me,
isn't that a total contradiction?
I certainly think so. If you were to raise that with an Islamist that takes all of this very literally, what they would say is that there's a difference between sex in the human condition, which is very different from sex in the afterlife, where everything is perfect and the things that can go wrong don't exist. It's just they would say that you're falsely equating two things. Obviously, for someone like you or I, and even many Muslims, they would say, okay, well, that's just illogical. It just doesn't make sense.
Right. Now, you say that there's obviously so many nuances amongst Muslims, but this vision of jihad, being rewarded by committing jihad and ultimately going to paradise, you're telling us that that's not universally held among Muslims? It's only extremists that would hold that position?
Only extremists hold that idea in terms of violent jihad, yes. The idea of jihad, basically what that means is it means a struggle. And so there's different types of jihad, and even the extremists will believe this. There's jihad by the pen, when you write things against injustice. There's the internal spiritual jihad against sin. There's all these different forms. The violent form is codified in authoritative Islamic texts. Most Muslims around the world understand that violent jihad is a legitimate form of jihad, but then you have the more moderate ones that will say either violent jihad is not permissible today, or at the very least, that's only under very extreme circumstances, like if Muslims are facing a genocide or something like that. So there's all sorts of different interpretations. Even of that term.
Even of that, I see. And you're saying the end times prophecies that you've outlined today, that is not held by all Muslims either.
Correct.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mauro, for enlightening us once again on ISIS and the various branches of the Muslim faith. We appreciate having you on our broadcast. You've been listening to the National Security Analyst at the Clarion Project, Mr. Ryan Mauro. Check out their website, clarionproject.org. And this is Dr. Grace, the editor of Politics and Culture at worldtribune.com, as we uphold values that will never die.
This is American Heartland with Dr. Grace. This is American Heartland with Dr. Grace.
Shut up, just shut up, shut up, shut up, just shut up, shut up, shut up, just shut up, shut up, shut up, just shut up, shut up.
Welcome back. This is the world-famous Shut Up segment of American Heartland. I know it's becoming quickly a fan favorite. We look around the country and find someone that we want to say, just shut up. And I try to choose people where it's heartfelt. It's a collective, just shut up. This week, it's Kim Kardashian. Kim Kardashian. She's the reality star who became famous with a leaked sex tape. And you know what? She's back at it again. She's all over the internet. She posed nude for Paper magazine. I never heard of that magazine before. It's a photo shoot which is called Break the Internet. And so the 35-year-old reality star is there on the cover bearing her behind. And I haven't seen the rest of the pictures. I don't want to see the rest of the pictures. She gave an interview on an Australian TV show called The Project. And this is her explanation. She did it, quote unquote, to make myself feel confident. End of quote. I don't think that lack of confidence when it comes to bearing your body, Kim, is an issue that you seem to be having. You seem to have no problem with showing off your body in various stages of undress, whether it's bikini or, okay, you're going a little bit further now, but you don't seem to be lacking confidence in throwing around your body parts. So I don't understand how that makes you feel confident. And she also says, quote, as a role model, first of all, Kim, you're not a role model. Not at all. As a role model, she says, I'm not saying anyone else should do that. But for me, it was an art project, and it taught me to do what you want to do. Again, does she look to you like somebody that needs to be taught to do what she wants to do? She's obviously doing whatever she wants to do. And she is debasing our culture. You have more and more girls that want to be in various stages of undress on camera, and this whole sex tape leakage made her famous, and it's encouraged others to do the same. It's encouraged young girls to do the same, and now bearing herself again is going to create more of that. She also says, I'm never one to preach, but I feel really positive about myself, and I did it for me. Sure, if you really did it, quote unquote, for you, you would have kept it private. But this is a public act, so you didn't just do it for you. You did it because you want everybody to see you naked. And what you really want is you want everybody to say that you're just so beautiful, that you're so breathtaking. In fact, Kim, to me, you look ugly. You look ugly. I don't see the beauty. You are a person that is ugly on the inside, and that ugliness is coming out all over your outside. You know, they say that as we age, our face takes on our personality, and that's very clear with her. She seems like a self-obsessed narcissist. There's nothing beautiful about her. And you would think that now that she's a mom, that if she was presenting pictures to the public, she could present images of how being a mom has made her more noble, made her less selfish, made her grander, made her understand to focus on others. Instead, we see her kind of going backwards in her development, becoming more and more immature with this obsession with the nude photo shoot. And you know, Kim, newsflash to you, naked women nowadays, they're a dime a dozen. It used to be a pretty big deal even 20 years ago if you had a celebrity posing nude, but now the internet is rife with nudity of every shape, size, and color. This is boring, Kim. And it looks like she says that, oh, she's not a role model, she's not to preach, don't imitate me, but I just been told that her sister, Courtney, is pregnant and posing nude. She's on the cover of Du Jour magazine. And again, you know, Courtney, been there, done that. We've seen the pregnant nude photo shoots. Demi Moore did it, and then Jessica Simpson did it. You guys are getting really boring. You're not only stupid, but you're boring. If you want to do something avant-garde, this isn't it. We've seen this stuff. We're bored by this stuff. And it's no wonder that there's a steady decline in viewers for Keeping Up with the Kardashians. They're still the highest rated show in E, but they're declining rapidly, and it is because their vacuousness is becoming apparent to the American public. On one of the comment sections discussing whether or not Keeping Up with the Kardashians is going to continue, one of the audience members writes, if you like this show, you are what's wrong with America. And I couldn't agree more. The entire Kardashian clan is the antithesis of a healthy family. And these two women are not only uninteresting, they're not even at all impressive in their nudity because we've seen it 100 times. And most important of all, Kim Kardashian, when you're going to act like a common girl, then have the decency also to just shut up about it. And now to the mailbag. I received a really impressive letter by James, who lives in Guam. And by the way, if you want to write to me, it's valuesthatneverdie@hotmail.com. Valuesthatneverdie@hotmail.com. So James from Guam, and I'd be curious to know how James heard of American Heartland all the way out there in Guam, but it's refreshing to see we have such an extensive fan base. He writes, Dear Dr. Grace, is it true that there are jihadist training camps in the USA? If so, what is being done about them? And why is this permitted? Well, in fact, there was a bombshell report featured on Hannity, and he revealed that the Christian Action Network produced a film. It's a film, it was an investigation, and they found that there are, in fact, 35 compounds which are being used. This is on American soil. There are 35 compounds that are, in fact, being used on American soil to train possible jihadists. What a bombshell revelation. And I don't think enough has been said in the media about it. So, James, to answer your question, it appears to be true that we now have jihadist training camps in America. And what's being done about them? Absolutely nothing. Because it's not illegal to do that. It's not illegal, for example, to train somebody in guerrilla tactics. It's not illegal to train somebody in all the things that this camp is doing. It's only illegal at the moment when violence occurs. So we have an incredible danger right in our midst. And the people that are supposed to be proactive on this, their hands are tied by our Constitution, which protects a lot of this behavior until the moment that it becomes violent. So, you know, James, an excellent question. The media has to do a lot more to expose this, and we also have to expose them the minute that it seems that they cross the line and behave in a manner that is no longer protected by the Constitution. You can bet your bottom dollar that our authorities are keeping their eye on these camps, and we in the media, it's our responsibility to do the same. Ali in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Tuvlo's video is not an endorsement of falling apart, but it's just a depiction of it. Well, Ali's responding to my Just Shut Up segment last week where I took apart this new singer, Tuvlo. Her video is all about a woman who is lost in love, and then she goes on a drinking and sex binge. Well, you say it's not an endorsement of it, it's a depiction of it. It's a really vivid depiction of it, and it is so graphic. I'm not quite sure that it's not an endorsement. I think some of it is, you know what, it's cool to fall apart like this. Look what a mess I become. So that's why I'm really critical of it. I think, sure, you can convey heartbreak in videos and in music. And I actually think so many of these songs are beautiful when they convey heartbreak. But this is crossing the line because you're actually seeing her engage in a in behavior, which you know kind of borders on orgies there. So I think it does cross the line, and it becomes more of an endorsement than simply a depiction. Richard in Charlotte, North Carolina. Do you think there is a danger of GOP overreach in dealing with Obama's executive amnesty? GOP overreach? That's a laugh, Richard. It's underreach. That's where the real danger is. And the real danger is they're not going to do enough to combat Obama. He's going to get away with it. We're going to have our nation flooded with illegals, and this is truly going to transform us. No, the problem we face now is underreach by the GOP and cowardice, not overreach. Michelle in New York, New York. Love your coverage of culture from a perspective of spiritual values. Don't hear much of that on radio. You're right. And I think that conservatives either completely ignore the culture, and that doesn't get us anywhere, or you have liberals that cover it. So hopefully we fill a void in the market. We cover the culture extensively, and we do it by celebrating our traditional values. Terry in Atlanta, Georgia. I strongly disagree with your scant coverage of the Ferguson case. Let me guess, Eric Garner is not worthy of your time either. I think the Eric Garner case is very different than that of Ferguson. That seems to be a travesty of justice. Thank you so much for your letters. Feel free to write to me, valuesthatneverdie at hotmail.com. This is Dr. Grace, upholding values that never die.
Here's what I tell everyone. I was born by grace.
The stories that matter, the issues that count. This is American Heartland with Dr. Grace.